Here come the boys. Y'all ready to go swimming, baby? Come on. Give it up. Get out of that water. I tried telling y'all, it's swim lessons, baby.
Sometimes in life, you get extremely lucky with things, and this was one in my life. It's an interview I never dreamed when I started doing the podcast that I'd have the ability to do, but as we've grown this thing in the last few years, it's one we got. And today's podcast guest is the new head football coach for the North Dakota State Bison. That is Tim Polasek. Coach Polasek was most recently the offensive coordinator at the University of Wyoming. He coached there under legendary head coach Craig Bull. And about 3 months ago, after interviewing, he was named the new head football coach for North Dakota State. We sat down, talked about what he wants to see out of the Bison program football-wise, and how he can bring a national championship back to Fargo and to the Fargodome. It was a very enlightening conversation. I have to say, Coach Polasek is very, very, very enthusiastic. He's very intense, but he's also very smart. And to get the chance to talk with someone like that was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I'm glad I got it here with Swim Lessons, the podcast. But before we get to Coach, hey, we got to talk about PSP Network, one of our big sponsors. PSP Network, it's game day, promoting local athletes all across the state of North Dakota for a long time. Check out PSP Network at their website, psp.network, or go check out them out at YouTube at PSP Network. They just finished up the State B, and they've done a lot of great things in the past. And if you've got a local student athlete that they've done one of their football games, basketball games, hockey, whatever it may be, go check them out and give their YouTube a like and make sure you subscribe. Next up is the great and powerful Sports on Tap and Planet Pizza, Minot's best place to have any kind of fun. It's been locally owned in the beautiful city of Minot for almost 30 years. You can contact Planet Pizza or Sports on Tap by getting a hold of them on their Facebook. That's Sports on Tap, or give them a call the old-fashioned way, 701-837-8220. Tony Mueller and his family do a great job there, so if you're in the city of Minot, make sure you stop by Sports on Tap. And then we got Neighborhood Pediatric Therapy. This is a great one too. It's located in the central part of Minot, and they provide speech and therapy services from individuals all the way from birth to 21 years of age. Services range from free screenings, speech and language evaluations, and therapy for a variety of areas including feeding, language, speech and sounds, and auditory processing. They accept a wide variety of insurances. You can look them up for more information about them. That's www.neighborhoodnd.com, or you can reach them out at 701-837-8877 about any questions, and heck, set up an appointment with them. Last but not least is the great and powerful Glasso Angus. Glasso Angus is a proud sponsor of Swim Lessons. Glasso Angus, it's your premier source for registered Black Angus since 1973. Glasso Angus cattle showcase dominance, durability, and docility and are built to thrive on the northern plains. Check out Glasso Angus, that's Glasoe, Angus.com. They've got their big bull sale this Friday, March 22nd is their big bull sale, so make sure you check out Glasso Angus. If you're listening, you have a company that might be interested in sponsoring a swim episode, give me a call or a text on social media. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe, turn on your notifications on YouTube or Spotify, Apple Podcasts. But that's it. So here we go with the head football coach for North Dakota State, Tim Polasek. Coach, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me.
How does it feel to just now becoming the North Dakota State head football coach? How great of a feeling is that?
Well, it's definitely been a goal.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a target. So it feels really, really good. And then, like, there's not a lot of time to, sit back and celebrate or to reflect and slow down. So you just got to, attack it day by day. And it's awesome to be in the role, to lead junior days, to lead some of the winter workouts. And now we're getting set for spring ball. And that's probably the part I've been most excited about, is just getting to not watch, but observe, evaluate the coaching evaluate the players, evaluate our leadership, and kind of see it in what we love the most, right? In football activities.
Well, I watched your press conference when you got introduced. It was awesome. You were very emotional because it's been a long journey for you. But one of the things I really thought was cool about that press conference was when you talked about your wife. And you said, I get to come back and be the head football coach at a city where I met my wife. Like, talk a little bit about that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the longer you do the job, right? I mean, it's going on, what are we talking about? 22, 24, 23 years. You come across a lot of coaches that impact you. They have families, they have wives, and it's just the more I started paying attention to like, okay, what's this look like big picture? Not a lot of people get to coach, in the area that they love or for their home state. Or for their home state school. And to be sitting here, actually, it's kind of ironic, right? In Dickinson, my mother-in-law lives here.
No kidding.
Yeah. And
oh, wow.
Jill is from New England, North Dakota.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, small world.
Yeah. And so she went to school at Moorhead State, and I met her in Fargo. And so I think just thinking about that stuff, the lead up to it, obviously, some of the things that were going on emotionally for me, with Coach Roll, a really good friend with Tyler, I was very sensitive to that. And so it was just a lot.
Yeah.
And I think when you put it right up there with the emotions of achieving a goal and wanting to go attack, the process of being the head coach at North Dakota State University, it was good to show some peer. It wasn't thought out.
Yeah.
It's just raw. I'm an emotional guy. Football matters to me a lot, and relationships matter to me a lot. And we know how hard it is to be a coach's wife. And so I think it was just a combination of all that.
Yeah, it was great, man. You could tell it was raw and it was authentic. But before we get to North Dakota State, I want you to take us back a little bit. Tell us a little bit about you, because people in North Dakota want to get to know you. So take us back. You were born and raised in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where you got your first coaching gig?
Yeah, absolutely. So I, a small town kid, central Wisconsin, about 8 minutes or 10 minutes away from where Brock Jensen was from.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
dude, that guy was a stud. Brock Jensen.
He's somebody that's on our mind and our thoughts and prayers right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got a great family, and Brock is from Waupaca High School. Waupaca County is where I'm from, and my mom and most of my family, my first cousins, there's 20 plus of us. We're all from central Wisconsin, and then I played small level Division III football. And from there, student taught, was trying to figure out, okay, do I want to be a teacher, coach high school basketball and football, maybe even baseball, right? Do it all just like a typical small town.
Yeah. Drive the school bus. Yeah.
Do it all, right? Like,
yeah.
And as time went on, it was clear to me I wanted to be a college coach. And so actually another in-state guy, Todd Wash, happened to be at Homestead High School in Wisconsin, which is a very good Division I school. I think Matt Canada was there from Indiana. A group of guys were at a bar after recruiting, and they were talking, and I think Coach Wash expressed that, there would be a position open, kind of like the one that Jared Taylor's doing.
Okay.
A role that would do a lot of different things. And the Homestead High School coaches were like, there's a guy at UW Stevens Point, just lives, breathes, sleeps, eats football, and would be awesome for it. I just finished my master's. I was actually, a logger, part-time at the time.
No kidding.
Recruiting two or 3 days a week, and then logging 2 or 3 days a week. And so I went up and interviewed with Coach Bull, and that's kind of the story of the short version of how I ended up at, North Dakota State. In a running back / GA role, / director of recruiting / academic coordinator. All those responsibilities kept coming. So I never had time at North Dakota State in the early years, like 6, 7, 8. I was always getting so much more responsibility that I just kind of was focused on the job. And so finances, the way I was living or where I was living never really even crossed my mind. And the next thing I know, was able to, continue to move up the ladder, and it was phenomenal, and then from there, had an opportunity to go to Northern Illinois. Chris Kleiman was pretty impactful on that one.
No, Chris Kleiman was.
Yeah, because Chris, I had a relationship with Rod Carey. I was going to get an opportunity there, but Chris had been some places, whether it was Western Illinois or Northern Iowa, he had been at multiple stops, and he knew the power of that as a young kid, as a younger coach. You could spread your network. And at the time, he was spot on. He's like, Tim, I think you need to do this just to meet more people. Well, that only ended up being, 340 days. Again, another reason why I got emotional talking about my wife. I mean, we're supposed to get engaged. We're supposed to get married in Fargo. We leave in the middle of our engagement to go to Illinois.
Yeah.
And we're there for 340 days. Kleiman calls me and says, hey, I want you to be the coordinator. Come back. And then so 14.
You can't turn that down.
No. But the hard part about it was, taking over the planning, not taking over the planning, but adjusting the planning of the wedding and things like that. So we moved the wedding to, I think it was May 10th. Yep. May 10th, 2014.
Okay.
So we got married. We went to the wedding site on a Thursday. I went recruiting on the next Monday. So you want to know
nice
why?
Honeymoon.
You want to know why you get emotional.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff that coaches' wives go through is just, it's not the norm.
Right.
It's just not. But everybody's journey is so different and unique that everybody just attacks their process and does it for what it's worth, and coming back to be the coordinator, getting a chance to work with Carson Wentz and Easton Stick. And I mean, Joe Hag at the end of his career, I've been very fortunate to have some opportunities to always gain experience, gain knowledge that it's just, I'm thrilled. We haven't hit a bump in the road yet where you've been fired or you've been out of work for a year. And then the opportunity to go to Iowa, I can't say enough about that. Like to
How
coach
sick was that?
Yeah, to coach a position you never coached before, to meet the players and to see that culture.
At Iowa, you were O-line?
Offensive line.
Okay.
Yeah. Offensive line, which was unique, and we can talk about that if you want to get into it. But being there for a 4-year stretch and then kind of getting that burning desire again to want to lead, a unit or lead a whole football team led me back to Coach Bull. And to see him late in his career at Wyoming for 3 years was just phenomenal.
There's a couple of segments I really want to talk about there. You mentioned two human beings that mean a lot to the state of North Dakota when it comes to football, and that's Easton Stick and Carson Wentz. Easton is still playing for the Chargers, right?
He actually, we think yesterday he signed another 1-year contract.
Okay. Let's start off with Easton. Talk about kind of what he's like as a human and what do you think is making him become so successful in the National Football League?
He's the best. I mean, like when you talk about like sports junkie, level-headed, just, he's a pure worker. Whatever Easton is doing that he's invested in, that he's committed to, he's fully committed to doing it the best he can. He's very aware of his surroundings.
Okay.
He's very aware of his teammates. He's very aware of his coaches. He's very aware of other people's personalities. I think that's a unique trait. Can you sit with different groups of people and methodically work through it and make an impact?
Right.
It's kind of like one of those things, that I'll always work to continue to get better as I meet different groups of people. Today, getting a chance to do a football clinic.
Yeah.
That's like my DNA. That's where I'm best. Okay. But as time moves on, you got to learn to be able to talk to different groups of people, impact different groups of people.
Yeah.
I really worked hard in January and in February. Okay. How can I help the defensive guys to see offensive football differently?
Yeah.
That when I think about Easton, he's very aware kind of all that stuff at a very young age. I mean, he's a dynamic person.
Now talk about Wentz. I mean, talk about the North Dakota dream. Doesn't have the best high school career, but ends up going to North Dakota State, kind of was thrown around a couple of different positions, and then he becomes one of the best from North Dakota State.
Yeah, just, his grit and executing his plan again, his understanding of what's important to him, his core values. I've never been around a guy that's so convicted in the things that he believes in to be important. And for that, ultimately, all the respect in the world. Ultra competitive, ultra talented, size. That's the first thing I think about when I think about Carson, just pure size, and then the combination of athleticism. His intelligence is off the charts, but I really like his path, and one of the hot topics right now is, the portal and NIL. I mean, you look at two guys, I don't know Josh Allen,
right?
But I heard a lot of stories when I was at Wyoming, right? Well, if it was the portal era, does Josh Allen
leave? Does
he leave? Does he become what he is today?
Great point.
Does Carson Wentz? I don't think Carson would have left.
No.
But that carrot would have been
It would have been there.
Yeah. Well, Brock Jensen was just a winner, right? Like he couldn't get off the field. And I remember Coach Bull talking about, guys, from a talent standpoint, it's not close.
Right.
It's a Wally Pipp type situation.
Yeah, Wally Pipp too, the Belichick story. That's a great.
Yeah.
I'm glad
story.
you know that.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so when I think about Carson, I just think about all the unique things that he's doing, not only for his community, wherever he's at, for his church, for his family, for his teammates. He's impactful going overseas.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that he's done and that he's been involved in, leveraging his success a little bit and maybe some things that he's been able to do for people financially is just tremendous. His foundation is awesome. Just two of the most competitive, good people that you could ever be around.
That's a big part of it, competitive. And that's something you can't ever lose. I mean, that's what transcends them to the NFL. Don't you? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree more than I'd like to get up and jump up and down. I mean,
yeah.
My three core values are compete, improve, and tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, without a competitive spirit, without pride, you leave that wiggle room for the job not getting done very well or to the fullest maximum effort.
Right.
And, those things, as far as being competitive is allows you to have a chance.
Right. That's a good segue into what I want to ask you next, and that was your offensive coordinator position at Wyoming. Craig Bull, you talked about him earlier, was a big part of your life, big part of your coaching history, if you will. Talk a little bit about Coach Bull, because he just retired, and talking about emotional, that had to have been emotional for you because you then left the program, and you both kind of left together. He's going to retirement, you're going to a new position. But what was your time with Coach Bull like?
Well, it was very, if you go back to 2006, I would say impactful. Number one, like a lot of the stuff that's in my DNA or belief system and how we're going to attack practices or how we're going to attack schedules, how we're going to attack how we work, the culture, right? All comes from Craig Bull.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when he made the decision to go to the double repping philosophy at NDSU,
What's
practice.
What's that?
Well, we're
exactly?
2 fields,
Okay.
2s on 2s, 1s on 1s.
Okay.
We have 44 guys going all the time.
Okay.
And that would be another really good point to like, okay, how did Easton have success as a freshman, redshirt freshman? It was the double reps that allowed him to be ready.
Right.
And so learning that part from Coach Bull, who got that from Nebraska as a player and coaching at Nebraska from Tom Osborne, they had multiple spots for all their drills. And that's just kind of where I would start. Coach Bull and I aren't very similar personality-wise. I mean, he's a CEO type. He leads by walking around and controlling an environment just with basically presence.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's really got a powerful presence. He's got a way up with creating a vision, laying out a plan, and then kind of just letting you do your job. But you always felt like, man, I don't want to let this guy down.
Yeah.
And then so moving on further down in your career, you're starting to develop philosophy. You're starting to develop conceptual beliefs. You're starting to develop leadership styles, right? And you think you're there. Okay, so it's 2012 and I still had a burning desire to want to learn and grow. Mm-hmm. And so getting the short opportunity with Rod Carey was just unique because that was kind of go fast, quarterback run game, tempo offense, spread them out to run it. It was a whole different kind of philosophy. That was really good from an X's and O's standpoint. And then Chris Klieman, just seeing his touch, his ability to relate to players and care for players and to pour into them daily, was really, really impactful. And then Kirk Ferentz, I would say that was probably the next moment for me that solidified, okay, we can be a head coach.
Yeah.
We can and we want to do it. And the reason I say that is because Iowa is not complex. In fact, they win roughly 9.5 games per year for 22 years, just being better at the basics.
Yeah, running the football.
Well, yeah, and the fundamentals of blocking and tackling.
Yeah.
You know, not turning the ball over, not being a penalized team. And so there is so many little things that we're able to emphasize now because of Kirk Ferentz that I'm not sure I would be emphasizing without that experience. And so all those guys kind of had a role in shaping where we're at today with philosophies. And I talked a little bit about this in Bison Illustrated. I got into reading books at Iowa.
Really?
Yeah, at a very, very
What
old,
kind of books we talking?
Well, leadership. If it doesn't impact our players, if it doesn't impact...
So you're not reading Harry Potter?
Well, and that's really interesting because I stayed with Nick Gazer the whole time that my wife was gone before we got into our house, and his kids were into Harry Potter.
Nice.
And my wife's into Harry Potter. And no, it just, if it doesn't benefit the football team,
Right.
if it doesn't benefit me from a leadership standpoint or a thought process on something, I'm not real interested in it.
Yeah.
And so to go back and to be with Coach Bowl in Wyoming at the end, okay, you kind of mentioned it must have been emotional seeing him leave. You know what? I got to be honest with you, it really wasn't. I didn't know he was going to retire. I knew we were coming down to the end.
No kidding.
Yeah. But Coach was so into wanting to be the president of the AFCA.
Yeah.
He had felt like he had positioned Wyoming culturally, all right, to have a chance to win every football game on the schedule. It just was really unique to see how convicted he still was in his recruiting thoughts, our practice habits, what a team should look like. It should be a team first.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, I just think I needed that.
Yeah.
You know, all this other stuff as you're moving along was kind of wrapped up and tied off by being with Coach at the end.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that. That brings us into now North Dakota State. Obviously, a lot of different moving pieces right now with college football. I know you guys have done a lot with your NIL and NDSU's vision with the Green and Gold Collective. Why don't you touch on that? Because I know as a college coach, it's got to be frustrating because we talked about like the Josh Allen, Carson Wentz, if they got that dangling carrot, are they going to take that and leave? And, you know, you don't get to coach them for maybe they're a sophomore and you're like, this kid could be a good junior, senior. So talk a little bit about that Green and Gold Collective and kind of what you guys foresee and how we can
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic. And Jared, to my right over here, is probably hanging out. Jared Taylor's with me today. You know, probably
we're going to get him on next.
probably grinning a little bit because it's I think we're at a really interesting stage, I think, as a society.
Yeah.
At the forefront of college football, a lot of conversation about the portal, NIL, collective. I think we're not talking about the root of the issue, which is it's pretty damn cool to be part of a team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we all are going to go pro in something.
Right.
Probably not the National Football League.
Yeah.
I don't know very many successful business owners. I don't know very many successful corporations that aren't successful because they have team members that value being there. Okay?
Like that.
And I think, like, I was with Kyle Steffes last night, you know, made an impact on me in 2006. I got to coach him 1 year. And we were talking, I'm like, well, how many tournaments do your kids play in? How many different teams are they on? So I think at a young age, we're sending a message that, hey, instead of playing for Dickinson or Iola, Wisconsin high school, you play for multiple teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you learn that traveling all over, having a big, different group of teammates every weekend is okay. Well, maybe that's just the way we're training our young people to think, where I think it's pretty damn cool to be part of a team.
Yeah.
And so our vision for our collective is to keep that at the forefront. Okay, I will not go out and ever ask a donor or present anything that has anything to do with an individual staying at North Dakota State. It'll always be based on, hey, here's what we'd like to do for the team based on years of experience. Okay, a second-year player gets X. A third-year player gets X. A fourth year and beyond gets X. All right, going in the spring, hey, you played 300 reps. you get X. You played 200 reps, you get X. And so we're just open to the idea of earn it. I think in North Dakota, people respect people that have earned it.
1,000%.
Okay, this is blue-collar operation in the Midwest.
1,000%.
Okay, the second we start giving stuff to 17-year-olds to come to North Dakota State will probably be about the moment that I'll be wrapping my career up.
Yeah.
If it ever gets to that stage. Being at Iowa, being at Wyoming, and recruiting at the next level or the higher level, if you want to say, it was crystal clear to me. Recruit kids that want to be coached and want to be developed and want to be part of a team. The guy that was talking about me, what's in it for my family, what's best for me, and not his development to reach his full potential, were guys that weren't going to fit at Wyoming, Iowa, or North Dakota State, period. We're still a developmental operation. We still have to win together. And I think that's one of the things that we talk about daily is together tough. And so about 2 or 3 years ago, as college coaches, we all hit a rough patch. Like this stuff hit us in the face and we had to learn how to handle it.
Yeah. And
I think we're still trying to do that.
Yeah.
But I guess the point is, last year I had one of my funnest years of coaching college football, winning 9 games. I just made my mind up when I show up at the office, anybody that wants to listen and be coached, I'm going to coach them. Anybody that has other thoughts or isn't fully invested, isn't where their feet are at.
Right.
Okay. If you don't give me good body language, if you don't look at me and say, hey, coach me, I want to be great, then we were just going to move on. And so we poured into the guys that wanted to be the best they could be. And we had a really fun, good year. And so that's kind of our first attack plan, is to get back talking about how cool it is to be a North Dakota State Bison. It's damn cool. I think it's the most powerful culture in the world. Okay, it's just getting our young guys to see, hey, it might not be perfect right now, but if you stay on it, look what can happen.
We'll be going to Frisco, baby.
We'll be going to Frisco. You'll be getting hired by businesses in Fargo or the Twin Cities. So many of our guys stay in our great community because of the growth of Fargo and the success of some of the businesses locally. And I think it all ties together. I think we just have to be really careful about what we're teaching our young people right now. You got to go be D1. You got to be the GOAT.
Right.
I remember growing up, and the greatest of all time, the first time I can remember like kind of hearing that was about Jerry Rice. I would be lying if I knew the exact year, but I'm betting it was probably around year 10 or 12 before any broadcaster had mentioned that.
The GOAT.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's back in the day, right?
Right.
We're a little old school.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. Our kids are not failures if they're not the GOAT.
Right.
Our kids are successful if they do everything they can to reach their full potential.
Right. I like that. Let's run through a wall, dude. That was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take your mind right now, Coach, to game 1. You're in the Fargodome. Thunderstruck starts playing by AC/DC. The lights go down. The smoke starts. You're about to lead the Bison out in their home opener. What's the emotions going to be like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm shaking right now.
Me too, dude.
The emotions got to be in check. We got to be, it's okay to be excitable and passionate, but got to go out there and lead these guys. I mean, I think, the second we start walking down that tunnel, I got to walk with a purpose. They got to know we have a plan. And then on top of that, I hope by that time, right, after spring ball, summer, fall camp, that we're a player-led program. Yeah, I got to go out in front. That's what head coaches do. But quite frankly, I would love for Cole and Gray Zabel and Cam, right, and the Mozarts and Wirtz, whoever our leaders might end up being, I would love for them to be blowing past me really fast and getting the guys lined up and ready to go for the kickoff.
I hope I'm there. I'd love to be cheering you guys on. Your schedule next year is interesting. You got some big games right away. Colorado, you got to travel there to Boulder, playing against Coach Prime. What's your mindset going with the schedule next year and kind of starting off with a bang, if you will, against Colorado? Yeah.
Well, I'd like them to get it finalized.
Okay,
it's finalized who we're playing. It's just they're working through some things with different networks or whatever.
Right.
And there's a lot to be said about the fans being excited about looking at the whole schedule.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to be said about, okay, who's coming to the Fargodome this year? Who do we play on the road? It all matters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it matters down to pennies and millions of dollars. It matters to what kind of environment's going to be out there at the tailgate. So when I think about schedule, you take a peek at it. You got to know what's going on early because it helps you to dictate, what kind of camp are we going to run?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do we have a young team? Do we have an old team? And so whenever I have to answer questions like this, I always kind of come back full circle. Well, wait a minute, we got practice 1,
right,
of spring ball coming up, and I think as long as we stay like on a day-to-day 1-0 type mentality, that's going to still be best for us.
Yeah,
we don't in August or in September, we don't want to be talking about big picture things. We really want to keep it the main thing. We want to make sure we're sharpening our fundamentals every week. We want to make sure we're improving every week. And that would kind of be one of those Iowa things.
Yeah.
I was surprised to find out how little the NDSU win over Iowa mattered to Iowa. Because Coach Ferentz has always believed in what kind of club did we got in November? Can we come together and challenge for a Big Ten championship? What does August and September really have to do with it?
Right.
It's the preseason. He's an NFL guy.
Yeah.
So there's a buildup to all these big games in November. And so I want to position our football team that we're playing meaningful games in November and in December and positioning the football team and the program to have a chance to go to Frisco.
Well, I was talking to a couple different coaches about you, trying to learn a little bit more before our podcast here and interview. And all of them said you're a fiery guy on the practice field, and practice means a lot to you. Was that your main philosophy though? Is just to win first at practice, and you're fired up more than almost games at practice?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
What we do in the dark is going to show up in the Fargodome. And one of the things that I saw in our transition from being not eligible for the playoffs to becoming eligible is that we really became a really, that's probably the best compliment I could ever give Coach Bull is, man, we practice great. Mm-hmm. And what I'm talking about is very rarely would we be fumbling the ball or not getting lined up properly. We really practice sharp. On a day-to-day basis, we were clean, man, and we were practicing hard. We were doing the right things. I think the blue-collar mentality of our football team allows for us to have good practices. You got to have good workers. And so for me, it's always been about understanding if we can practice great, we can play free. Okay, and one of the other things I talk a lot about is teaching style. And yesterday, it was really cool. This is actually really unique because we had a team meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
We had a recruiting event yesterday. And then today you get the clinic and talk about it some more. But one of the things that I like is when people cultivate a teaching style. Okay, that's one thing. Now I have to project to the parents what we're going to do. And I made sure yesterday it was picture perfect, right? We are going to create uncomfortable situations for your sons. This is not going to be easy, all right? You have to be tough to come to North Dakota State. If you're not tough and you're looking for easy, don't look at us. And so I think that correlates with practicing great is, how many situations can we put our guys in that really challenge them? It's really difficult. It's really hard.
Yeah, no, wow, spot on. I love a good story of resilience. I'm a big resilience guy. I've talked to a few different coaches, and one of them specific, his name was Brian Hornecker, and he interviewed to be the Minot High head boys basketball coach. And he was the longtime assistant, didn't end up getting the position, and he had a choice to make. And it was either, hey, I can stick with this program and try to better myself and be there for the kids, or I can just kind of quit and leave. And he decided to stay, and I thought that was a great story of resilience. In 2002, you talked about a little bit of your press conference. Why don't you talk about your own personal story of resilience? Because I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I got a lot of thoughts going on in my mind right now because I'm thinking more about like how can I be impactful here with my answer.
Yeah.
Everybody's story is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the world of my mother. Okay, she's a single parent. I think she had multiple jobs at multiple times. I think she played softball in softball leagues, volleyball leagues, pool leagues. I think she really knew how to have a good time herself, valued her friendships. And so we didn't have a lot, but I never didn't have Charles Barkley's basketball shoes. I never didn't have Michael Jordan's tennis shoes. Somehow, I got dropped off, for elementary school about 4 blocks away from the school because I was embarrassed about our car. And so I think that was beneficial. Mm-hmm. I think that was, for me, I needed that. So I've never been in a situation in 2002 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 before I had anything that I would say I have a stake in it, where I'm making enough money that I could look at a really nice apartment or rent a house, those kind of things. And so resiliency to me is just a matter of keeping your eyes on the prize and keep pushing forward, right? Like, man, if you can't walk, crawl. If you can't run, walk. And so I think my best story of resiliency would be just kind of staying on the track of having to be a logger, having to work in the steel mill, just to pay for school or to have a little bit of extra money in your pocket to play golf. One of the stories about me coming out to North Dakota State was that the superintendent at my high school bought my driver from me.
No kidding.
two weeks later or 2 months later, he sent it back to me. I don't need it. But if I didn't get that $250 from him, I don't even know if I would have been able to get to Fargo.
Wow. Impactful.
Yeah. I mean, really cool. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not a bad thing if you've got great parents and they've provided a bunch of stuff and they're helping you financially. It's just sometimes I sit and go, okay, well, is that person really going to go through the grind and the struggle that it takes to push it through?
That was a great story. I appreciate that. We got 2 segments left, and then I know you got to go to the clinic here in a little bit. Okay, Coach, this is called 10 for 10.
All right.
So these are 10 questions. There's no right or wrong answer. You just got to answer them as quick as possible, okay? And you remember my name is Dallas, right?
Dallas.
Yep, okay. 10 for 10 with Coach, and away we go. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Hot dog or hamburger?
Hamburger.
Palm trees or evergreen trees?
Evergreen.
Lake or ocean?
Lake.
Favorite actor or actress?
Robert De Niro.
Good choice. Favorite band or rap artist?
Chris Stapleton.
Ooh, even better. Okay, what city in Texas has an NBA mascot nicknamed the Mavericks?
Dallas.
What city in Texas has an NFL team nicknamed the Cowboys?
Dallas.
What city in Texas spelled backwards reads salad?
I have no idea.
Dallas. Who is your favorite podcaster / new best Bison fan?
Dallas.
There we go. All right, sweet. Swim Lessons, the podcast, is a podcast about overcoming tough times. You touched on the resiliency a little bit there, but leave us here with something before you go that maybe somebody can make it applicable to their life and something that you look at when the chips aren't falling your way.
Man, I guess for the listeners or anybody that knows me, they talk a lot about, like, man, Tim did it, and it wasn't like laid on a platter for him, right? I take a lot of pride in it, but I don't give a lot of thought to it. I really feel very fortunate to come out of a small community where we just were playing ball, man. It's kind of funny, but when you grow up in a small community with your cousins and you have uncles and aunts around, you kind of you get raised by a tribe. And I don't know if that's tough. I mean, I feel like for me, it was phenomenal. I think staying on the grind and the push in the steel mill when I was in college in the summertime, and having those experiences really, really pushed me to want to be the best I can be and to want to coach, because that's a hard life. Mm-hmm. I mean, the people that working 40 hours a week in a steel mill or logging or roofing or just working, right, are workers. I mean, man, I got a great deal of respect for those people because they're still providing for their families. Mm-hmm. And it's always been that way. I mean, and so just really, I feel really fortunate to be in the position I'm in and helping as many people as possible reach their full potential.
Well, listen, I really appreciate the time. It truly meant the world to me. I wish you guys the best of luck in your upcoming, hopefully many seasons. Give us a quick plug on whatever you would like people to look at when they listen to this. And a lot of our listeners are from North Dakota, big Bison supporters. So what's a good plug for them to check you out?
Yeah, I mean, at Coach Polasek, at Tim, at Coach Tim, NDSU on Twitter. That's kind of my way of reaching the general public.
Okay.
But as far as a plug goes, get out to the Fargodome. Let's make that thing as crazy as possible again. And I don't feel badly about asking that, because our kids are doing great things in the community. Our kids are staying off the front page of the newspaper, and we're achieving a 3.2 GPA right now.
Wow.
As a football team. And the other thing I'll mention is, as an athletics department, 25% of our kids are 4.0. And so I think these kids deserve to be supported.
Yeah.
They continue to allow us to be proud of the product. And so I hope the whole state of North Dakota gets over to Fargo on Saturdays. But I got to be honest, I'm also equally as excited to be in Dickinson today.
Yeah.
And to get around the state and to show our appreciation for everything that everybody does, whether it's team makers, the Green and Gold Collective, former players, former student athletes, students at North Dakota State. And so it's an exciting time. And I just hope I hope that I can impact one or two young people to become Bison fans.
Hey, you got one right here. Appreciate it, Coach, and best luck. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Dallas.